Next, the long-time struggle for freedom and social justice in the United States. For decades, the legendary singer and actor Harry Belafonte worked tirelessly to fight racism, carrying on the legacy of his friend Martin Luther King Jr. For the final 12 years of his life, Belafonte collaborated on a documentary to pass on the lessons he learned from a lifetime of activism. The result is Following Harry, and here's a clip.
I'm here because you called. I'm here because I am part of your history. You called, and I'm here to tell you, those of us who have been on this campaign, who have been in this struggle for over a century, are delighted, happy to be part of this moment.
What I recognized was Mr. Belafonte wanted to be a bridge that so many generations of young people could walk over, that connected them and us to the promise and the unfinished work of his time. His appreciation and love and belief in the Dream Defenders at many times was the sole thing from keeping myself and I think other people from the brink of quitting.
Like Philip Agnew speaking there, the film includes many of the younger generation Belafonte inspired and mentored, but also listened to, including Carmen Perez-Jordan, an activist who now heads up the Gathering for Justice, an NGO that was founded by Belafonte, and the musician Aloe Blacc, who, along with Carmen, this month received the Harry Belafonte Voices for Social Justice Award. And they're joining me now from New York. Welcome, both of you, to the program. It is an extraordinary documentary. It's just so sort of real time, like a tutorial, like a lesson evolving before your eyes. So, Carmen, let me ask you first, what made you even want to connect with Harry? What said to you, this is the person I need to talk to continue my life of activism?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having us. And I don't necessarily think I asked myself that question. I was actually assigned to work for Mr. Belafonte through his mentee, Nana Alejandres, who is the executive director of Barrios Unidos. And I was running the prison project, and Mr. Belafonte was one of the guests inside Tracy Prison. And when I was invited to be part of what is now called the Gathering for Justice, he clearly wanted me to work for him because of the work I had done in prisons and the work I had done in the community. But, you know, 20 years ago, I didn't know it was going to be a blessing to sit at his feet and to learn from him. And what I initially thought Mr. B was and who he was not necessarily anything that I discovered until I got to sit with him, until I got to be with him, and I moved to New York City to run the Gathering for Justice. And it, you know, when you talk about him and everything that he taught us, I used to want to bottle it up. And following Harry now is the exposure of what I got for the last 14, 20 years of my life.
And Aloe Blacc, you are a young musician. There you were, you know, learning and also explaining to this veteran of the entertainment and the street struggle worlds, the worlds of that. What did you think when you first met him? What did you think you were going to get out of this collaboration?
Well, when I first met Harry Belafonte, I thought that it would be an interesting moment to just learn from an elder. What I found was a friendship and one where he saw me as a mutual friend. We both were able to speak to each other on the level and learn from one another. And I'd say that, you know, in being with Harry and having Susan Rostock's camera follow us and see those conversations, I think is extremely important for the world to see. In watching Following Harry, to recognize that as he aged, he continued to stay connected to youth, continued to stay connected to activism and movement, and to instruct, but also learn from us, and instruct us to learn from the people who are suffering the most vulnerable, and understand how best we could use our voices to empower them and make transformation, positive transformation.
Yeah, and I really do think that two-way street is something that comes across so well, and it's so vital. It's not like you were being lectured to. It's not like you were also telling him, this veteran, what it was like now for your generations. And I want to just refer back, Carmen, to something you were just talking about, the Gathering for Justice that he founded. So we know that there's over-incarceration of Black and brown young people in the United States, what some call, including in the program, the new Jim Crow. So it's led by the 6 principles that were outlined by Martin Luther King in a famous essay, A Pilgrimage to Nonviolence. And I want to play a little bit of Harry himself in the documentary talking about it.
The Gathering came out of a deeper inquiry on my part about incarceration of young people and the injustice system. I do a lot of work in the lockup with a lot of young people because I remember with tremendous clarity what it was like to try to work your way out of a bad deal.
So, Carmen, you spoke a little bit about what came out of those gatherings, but I wonder what you think has been achieved in the attempt to have more social justice in this regard, and also what you were able to tell him and vice versa about the march that you were responsible also for launching, which was the Women's March on the inauguration day of Donald Trump in 2017.
There were so many lessons in my conversations with Mr. Belafonte. One of them was part of the 6 principles of Kingian nonviolence, and it was principle number 3, attack the forces of evil, not people doing evil. And so when we were organizing the Women's March, the attack was not against Trump. It was actually creating pathways and entry points for all women to feel that they were connected to a movement, to something larger than themselves. And so Mr. Belafonte would sit with me and guide me through the lessons he learned through the original March on Washington. And so a lot of what we were able to do with the 2017 Women's March was really based on his guidance. He always said, meet people where they're at, champion them to your cause. He said, there's a lane for everybody to get involved in the movement. And so when we were thinking about preparing the agenda, we needed to bring in artists like Aloe Blacc, Alicia Keys, other women who were demanding rights for women. And so for me, it was this exchange very similar to what Aloe is saying. We always had conversations. He consistently gave me a historical analysis. You will see that in Following Harry, where he talks about what happened with him and Dr. King. And those historical analyses and the conversations he had not only with Dr. King, but Eleanor Roosevelt and Nelson Mandela have allowed people like myself, Philip Agnew, Champika, Ajad Monet, others to continue the legacy of those that came before us, but also not just their legacy, but to continue the work of Harry Belafonte. Following Harry is such an important film. It is exactly what we need in this moment. He discusses, and even though it took place in the last 10 years, everything is relevant to the political climate that we are currently in. And so there's a lot of gems that are being dropped. And like I said, I sat with him for close to 20 years. I'm so grateful. But now with Following Harry, the information that he shared with me is now going to be shared with the world.
Mm-hmm. And I want to ask you about a particular speech that Harry made back in 2013 when he was, I believe he was being awarded at the NAACP. And he didn't just say thank you, he put everybody in the audience on notice. I'm just going to play an extract.
The question is, where is the raised voice of Black America? Why are we mute? Where are our leaders, our legislators? Where is the church?
Really throwing the gauntlet down. I mean, he was not afraid to shine the spotlight and to turn the mirror on his own community. What did you think, Aloe, when you heard about that speech?
What I thought was it was my turn to stand up and step into the light and be part of the change. Harry was calling on all of us to use our voices, our celebrity, our influence, our artistic expression. And so what I've been doing since then, putting together an album with the support of an organization called Stand Together, where all the songs are representative of and amplifying the work of people on the ground, community workers who are improving their environments and the people that they serve, organizations that are doing the hard work to better the lives of the most vulnerable. This is the way that we can show up as artists. And I look to all of my peers within the music industry, the film industry, and other entertainment industries to use their voice. Use your voice to speak truth to power. One of the things that Harry Belafonte always said was that artists are the gatekeepers of truth, and it was a quote that he got from his hero, Paul Robeson.
And I want to ask you also, because he was cognizant that not all movements are a kumbaya. There's a lot of struggle within and internal disagreement within, certainly in the civil rights movement. And Carmen, I think you know clearly, because you were there, that there was a lot of conflict within the women's movement after that march. So he often said in the film and throughout his career, was it worth it? Did everything I do mean anything? What did we change? I want to ask you that, Carmen, about what he said and what you think you can change.
I absolutely feel it was worth it. I want Mr. Belafonte and everybody to know that, what he did was pave the way for so many of us. And one of the things that he had shared with me after, there was always conflict. There's conflict in every movement, right? But he said, those who are working towards the liberation of our people are subject to friendship and support. Those who are being divisive are playing the enemy's game. And right now, in this moment, there's an opportunity for us to come together, to stand up for women's rights, to stand up for young people that are being impacted by houselessness, to stand up for individuals that are being impacted by poverty. And what Mr. Belafonte did really well is he gathered people. He brought people together. He was a bridge. And that's where I think there is hope. In this film, you will see that. If you are looking for answers, if you are looking for a way to feel hopeful again, following Harry is it. It is a clarion call for equity. We all have a role to play in this movement, whether we're involved in the women's movement, whether we're involved in the criminal legal system movement. There is a lane for us. And Mr. Belafonte just didn't impact those of us that are part of this film. He gathered so many young people, and there are young people all over this country, all over this world that are continuing his legacy.
And that is what I want to end with, because, Aloe, because we're in the midst of an election. Young people historically don't turn out in the numbers that they should. What do you think this time around?
I think this time around, young people absolutely have to. The world depends on their action right now. And those are the people who can make the change. We are the ones that are going to be in charge of the future. We've got to step up.
And we just heard that message from the great French soccer legend, Kylian Mbappe. They're undergoing a very crucial parliamentary election this weekend. And I think a lot of cultural leaders are trying to send that message out. So I don't know how many seconds I've got left, but just, Carmen, 2 words on what Harry Belafonte meant to you.
Mr. Belafonte meant the world. He was my saving grace, and I'm really grateful for him and his mentorship throughout the years.
And quickly from you, Aloe.
Dramatic transformation. Find one good thing. That's the quote that I got from Harry via Bono, actually, in a conversation. One good thing.
Great. Well, you've communicated that, and following Harry does just that. Thank you both so much indeed for being with us.